Have you ever sent a text message, set your phone down, and gone back to your day, only to get a call 5 minutes later from someone who completely misunderstood what you meant? I mean, somehow the message they received was the exact opposite of the message you sent. It could be frustrating, but without hearing your vocal tone or seeing your facial expression, the meaning can change entirely. Welcome back to the Business Moves Blueprint. I'm Rashid Hanif, and on this episode, we're going to focus on effective communications in business. There may be no more important item in your business than the effectiveness of how you communicate. When you improve communications, all aspects of your business will be lifted up. So let's get into this very important topic right now. So situations like the one we introduced at the beginning happen far more often than most of us realize. And not just with text messaging. It can happen with all forms of communication. So let's first define effective communications. Effective communications is simply the ability to say something and have it clearly understood and put into action after receiving it. That's it. Now, research consistently shows that communication is misunderstood at a substantial high rate for multiple reasons. Think about the impact that has on your business. Misunderstood expectations, confused teams, lost customers, damaged trust. Effective communication isn't just a soft skill. It's the foundation of every relationship, team, and organization. Effective communication is not about what was said. It's about what was understood and what happens after that. Understanding of communications is influenced by far more than just the words we speak. The noted psychologist Albert Mehrabian, in his famous research, determined that when people communicate emotions and attitudes, words are only part of the message. Vocal variety and facial expression often carry an even greater influence than the words themselves at times, and especially when they do not complement the words that are spoken. In other words, people don't just listen to what we say. They pay attention to how we say it, and at times, it has far more influence on the message. That's why effective communications in business isn't only about delivering information clearly, it's also about making sure your tone, expression, and intent all support the message you want others to understand. So vocal variety plays a major role in how people receive and interpret a message. The human voice communicates emotion, confidence, urgency, enthusiasm, sincerity, and authority, and often more powerfully than the actual words themselves. A speaker can say the same exact sentence in a different way and completely change its meaning simply through the use of nonverbals. Vocal variety helps listeners recognize what matters most, what is exciting, what is serious, and what deserves your attention. Without vocal variety, even great content can lose its impact. Monotone delivery can be detrimental because it signals low energy and emotional disconnect. Listeners may perceive the speaker as uninterested, uncertain, unprepared, or lacking confidence, even when that may not be the case. Over time, a monotone voice causes listeners to mentally disengage because the brain naturally responds to changes in sound and emotion. Effective communicators intentionally vary their voice in several ways, some of which are with pitch, pace, volume, pause, inflection, rhythm, and also with emphasis. Now, years ago, we used this simple sentence to illustrate the effects of this. The sentence was, I didn't say she stole the money. Now, if you adjust the emphasis or inflection at various points of the message, it seems to change its interpretations. For example, I didn't say she stole the money. Okay then, who said it? Or, I didn't say she stole the money. Then how did it get communicated? Or, I didn't say she stole the money. Then who did you say stole it? Or, I didn't say she stole the money. Then how did she get the money? It's the same 7 words, delivered 4 different ways, but I'm willing to guess you heard a change each time. This is why 2 salespeople can state the exact same information and still have people walk away with completely different interpretations. Body language and eye contact are powerful forms of nonverbal communication that strongly influence how a message is interpreted as well. Long before people fully process our words, they're subconsciously evaluating our facial expressions, our posture, our eye contact, all to decide whether we appear confident, trustworthy, engaged, or sincere. Have you ever had people assume someone was a certain way even before they ever had a conversation with them? It happens all the time. And in business communications, nonverbal signals can either strengthen a message or completely undermine it. A speaker may say they are confident or they're open to feedback or excited about an idea, but if their posture is closed off or their facial expression is tense or they avoid eye contact, the audience is more likely to believe the nonverbal message instead of the spoken words. This is why Mr. Morabian's research was so important and why alignment of those factors matter. When your body language and eye contact and the vocal variety, plus the words, all support one another, communication becomes far more believable and influential. Eye contact is especially important because it creates connection and trust. Strong eye contact shows attentiveness, confidence, honesty, and respect. It helps listeners feel acknowledged and engaged in the conversation. Now, on the other hand, poor eye contact can be very detrimental. Constantly looking away or staring at notes or focusing on the screen or avoiding visual connection may cause others to perceive a speaker as nervous, distracted, uncertain, or just plain disengaged. In addition, effective communicators intentionally use positive forms of language, such as gestures and movement, in addition to other items we have already mentioned. I remember my first day of college, many years ago, one of my instructors stepped up to the lectern and said, "I'm Mr. Ring, and I will be your instructor this semester, and I'm really excited about delivering this material to another class of brilliant electrical engineering students. This will be an engaging semester. Let's talk about what the course will cover in this course syllabus." Now, he said he was excited, but very few of us walked away believing, he was really excited about being there. His tone, facial expression, posture, and just the delivery communicated something totally different to us. And by the way, that's how he sounded the entire course. Again, these misunderstandings happen all the time in our communication. In addition, physical barriers to communication are tangible obstacles that interfere with clear sending, receiving, or understanding of a message as well. These barriers can reduce attention, distort meaning, or create frustration and increase misunderstandings, even when the message itself is well intended. So, some of the most common physical barriers include noise and distractions like from lawnmowers or moving trains or dogs barking. It could be the distance between the 2 communicators. It could be poor or malfunctioning technology. Sometimes it's just the workspace layout or a lack of privacy, or it could be poor lighting and visibility. But effective communicators recognize that successful communication depends not only on the message itself, but also on the environment in which the communication is delivered. Preparation and planning beforehand is going to be essential to control these barriers from affecting your communications. Now, here's a fascinating aspect of communication. Every person communicates through a unique set of filters shaped by their experiences and background. Factors such as their upbringing or their education level, their culture or the generation they're from, work experience, environment, and personal life experiences all influence how people send, receive, and interpret messages. Again, two people can hear the exact same words and walk away with completely different understandings, but this time because each person may interpret it through their own frame of reference and filters. Understanding these differences is key to becoming an effective communicator. Great communicators recognize that not everyone processes information the same way. Instead of assuming their message is going to be automatically understood, they adjust their communication style or messaging based on the audience. As I grew older and somehow my audience kept getting younger, I would lean on my daughter, Jazz, and my son, KJ, to keep me up on references that would help me engage my audiences, which were younger. I had to be more intentional about the words I chose or avoiding assumptions at times. I had to consider cultural or definitely the generational differences. I had to pay attention to the emotional reactions that they had. And I asked clarifying questions to confirm understanding. I even had to adjust my humor because really humor from my generation may not be understood by people from generations that followed. You see, people don't hear messages exactly as they are spoken. They hear them through their own filters of their experiences. Effective communication is not just a talent people are born with. It's a skill that can be developed intentionally. And here are a few tips for becoming a more effective communicator. For one, focus on clarity, avoid jargon, and ensure words have purpose. Avoid vague statements and try to stay specific. Confirm understanding when it is necessary. And don't assume people understood your message. Ask questions, especially when it's necessary to make understanding work. Like, how does that sound to you? Can you summarize the next steps? Or what questions may you have for me? It's always a good move to improve your active listening skills and listening for understanding rather than simply waiting to respond. We need to stay aware of tone, since tone often communicates emotion more loudly than even our words at times. Now, as a side note, in virtual communication, vocal variety becomes even more important. So use it very intentionally and ensure it matches the intent of your words. Now, you may need to deliver the same message differently at times depending on who you're speaking to. See, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Now, in Brooklyn, we deliver messages a certain way. I was also a chief petty officer in the Navy, and we had our own language there as well. And these are parts of my filters. Now, in 2014, I had the privilege of delivering a brief message at Harvard while attending their business extension school. Now, although I was very fluent in Brooklynese, on that day, I needed to adjust my communications messaging. I wanted to be effective. It would do me no good to deliver a message and have people walk away feeling I didn't get it. At one point, I used to say, we communicate for the comfort of others. You see, some people get very stubborn at times and fail to adjust their messaging. I've observed facilitators that were ineffective in a classroom, but their first thought afterwards was, what was wrong with them? Why didn't they get it? And I'm thinking, dude, there were 40 of them, and none of them got it. And there was just one of you delivering the message. It may not have been them, just a thought. But we often look outwardly when communications fail. But if you're leading communications and they are failing, so did you. Seriously, who are you really communicating for? It's important that we know our audience and communicate for their understanding. So eliminate distractions, put away the phones, minimize interruptions, and create environments that support focus. Now, there's a small part of communication that gets really overlooked quite often, and that is the use of a pause. If you say something you want people to really remember and you want it to stick, you need to say it and pause. Give the listener time to absorb the message before moving on, just like I did. Because if you move on too quickly, the message just may get lost while the listener's moving on to the next message. The goal of communication is not simply to speak, it's really to connect, create understanding, and inspire meaningful action. At the end of the day, communication is not measured by what we intended to say. It's measured by what other people understood about what we said. The most effective communicators are not necessarily the loudest, the smartest, or the most polished. They're the people who create clarity, build trust, and make others feel understood. And in business, whether you're leading a team, serving customers, teaching students, or closing sales, your ability to communicate effectively will often determine the opportunities you create and the results you achieve. So the next time you walk into a meeting, send that email or make a presentation or have an important conversation, remember, don't just focus on delivering the message. Focus on making sure the message connects. Thank you for listening to the Business Moves Blueprint. I would truly be interested in hearing from you about communications in your business. I'm Rashid Hanif, and I look forward to you catching our next episode with another one of our Business Moves. Until next time, peace.